Hello everyone, Shel from Paper Ocotillo Studio, and today I'm sharing with you my Inktober challenge using the prompts from hashtag 31witches2. And so I've got 31 witches going on this month. This is days 6, 7, and 8. I'm using my homemade journal that I made in the video that has day 1 in it, which I will try to remember to link in the iCards. The prompt for day 6 is a Noir witch, and I was thinking about that, and at first I thought that just meant black witch, a witch that does black magic. And so I was going to do, a more scary thing. And then I start to think about what the word noir means, and there's a whole film genre that's called noir, and it's the idea of it is to portray darkness by using very intense blacks and grays, and the people in it in film noir, it's generally like detective stories or murder stories or things like that. And because it's an old genre, the women in it are femme fatale type, dark makeup type people with pretty dated hairstyles. And then often there'll be like maybe a background of wallpaper or something, and then the shadow that the person in the foreground is casting is showing their true self. It's showing that they're a killer, or it's showing that there's a monster inside. It's interesting, and I thought maybe that's what they meant. You get a prompt and then you're like, well, what does that mean? If you don't really know, then you have to think about it and do a little bit of research, and that's what I did. So I decided to do my illustration in a noir style. And because I have these alcohol markers in so many colors of gray, you just never knew why they give you so many colors of gray. I've got a lot of grays. I thought that that would be perfect for doing this type of a real high contrast illustration style. So I got out like a true black and 5 different colors, I think, of cool gray, and I'm giving a very harsh shadow at the bottom. If you look up noir illustration or film noir illustration, you'll see that this is what it looks like. The people have intense makeup, like she's got a ton of mascara and dark eyeshadow all the way up to her eyebrows, very defined and pencil-y looking eyebrows, with the arch, high arch, like, I don't know, big lipstick. And so that's what I'm trying to make here. I did start my drawing in 2B graphite with my mechanical pencil, and then I'm just going through and filling in the dark background. Remember, these journal pages are 4.5 by 4.5, so these are small journal pages, which is good because it takes me long enough to do a small one. If I had to do a big one, I would be doing it all day. This challenge is intense. A lot of drawing, of course I can't leave them just black and white. Well, I mean, in this case, it's pretty much black and white with a little bit of color. The red lipstick, dark red, intense colored lipstick. And then I do add in some kind of a gray-green at the end. But mostly this one's black and white. But what I'm saying is I can't leave my drawings black and white. I don't like them that way, so I do have to color them, so that takes a lot of time. This video, in order to fit the 3 days into a 20-minute video, these are all sped up at 8 times fast. So it is going by really fast. But that's what I got to do in order to fit them in. I can't make a video every day this month. I'm going to be out of town, and I'm traveling, and there's birthdays and just stuff. So So I decided to make my background kind of ombre, starting dark at the bottom and then lightening up as it goes towards the top. I do try the blender pen, which I haven't tried before. It doesn't really blend that much, but using mixed media paper for these pages, and it's pretty absorbent, so I think it's absorbing. I also put a piece of scratch paper inside the pocket to protect the other side because I wasn't sure if these alcohol markers would bleed through all the way. They didn't even bleed through the first layer, so the inside of the bag is still clear, but I did tuck that in there just to be safe. So I ended up drawing her shadow reflected onto the wall in the background, like this is a popular thing in this style. And I just made it a silhouette of a nasty green witch, you know, an evil looking cackling type witch. Here's her beautiful face, and then but inside she's a mean green cackling witch. So I really like this. I think it turned out really fun, and it's not something I ever would have done without this prompt. I would have never even thought about doing it. It's not something that I do, so I really enjoyed it. I think it's cool. I like it. It's fun. I like it. Day 7, the prompt. Fairy godmother. Completely different from the page next to it. Fairy godmother is not a mean witch. She's not evil. She's cute and often associated with pumpkins because of the Cinderella story. So I started out with the big pumpkin for her to sit on. I generally think of fairies as being tiny people. My illustration, the way I shortened her body and her arms, I think that she not only looks tiny, but also kind of like maybe a little person. But, you know, fairies are tiny, like 3 or 4 inches tall. So I was trying to make her cute and plump and rounded and, you know, benevolent looking. So that's how it ended up. So I started a course again with my graphite 2B lead mechanical pencil, and I think her legs and feet almost look like a baby, like little chubby fat little legs and feet. It's so cute. Like you just want to pinch her cheeks. I don't know. Really look exactly like a baby in her face, but I tried to, you know, make rounded cheeks, rounded chin. Maybe she's an old person who just looks like that, or maybe, I don't know. Anyway, I wrote the word poof because I get this idea that a fairy would just appear, just like pop into your space, you know, magically. Of course, is a fairy real? I don't know. I've never actually seen one, but we all have these perceptions and ideas of what they are. So just playing on those type of those ideas, trying to anyway. So I did quite a bit of inking on this one. I didn't just use one pen and draw around it. I used several different thicknesses of pens and darkened areas, even with the brush pen, making very dark areas to add contrast to the illustration. That's something that I think is part of inking when you are doing Inktober. You know, you're supposed to think about line weight and contrast and things like that. I'm not a trained illustrator. I'm not a trained artist, but I just kind of get these ideas from somewhere. I don't know where I get them. They just pop into my head and I start to think, okay, well, I need to increase line weight so that I have some automatic shadows and a lot of drama in my illustration. So of course I used a very tiny extra small nib to do the face and all the little details within the hands and the, you know, little hash marks and things like that. So I've got probably 4 different nib sizes on there. I'm using that Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pins. These are India ink pins, and I really like them for doing my illustration type stuff. So then, of course, I can't leave it black and white, can't stand it, so I have to color it. I'm using my Neocolor 2 water-soluble crayons on this one, and a water barrel brush. And I'm using the method of, well, to begin with, I'm using the method of coloring straight on the paper and then blending it with the water. But then I start to color onto the craft mat that's next to me at some point. I guess I haven't started that yet, but. And, you know, adding the finer shadows and things, I just color onto the craft mat and then pick up the color with my water barrel brush. I'm not using the method that I sometimes use, which is to blend the Neocolor 2 with either matte medium or white acrylic paint, because I have no intention of putting anything over the top of this. I don't need to seal it. It's just straight up coloring. So it's an equivalent of a watercolor, only I'm not using watercolor paint. I'm using these pigmented crayons. Some people call them water-soluble oil pastels. I'm not sure. But I think in a minute is where I start to color onto the craft mat. Yeah, there we go. I colored the darker teal onto the craft mat and then picked it up with the brush on the water barrel brush pin. I sometimes just do it on the deli paper, but the craft mat was right there, so I went ahead and did that. And to finish this up, I'll be using glitter, and the camera cut off at the very end, so you won't see me add all the glitters, but I started out with the translucent glitter and then I moved to other colors of glitter. So in the picture there's a lot more different colors of glitter than there is in the video. But it was only a couple minutes of video lost at the end. That happens sometimes, and you just never know why. It just disappears, and you're like, well, what happened? I didn't change anything. I didn't do anything. But that's the iridescent or translucent glitter. I put that all over the place because it's fairy dust, you know, glittery fairy dust. And then I end up adding some copper glitter to the top of the pumpkin, some gold glitter on the star, and some silver glitter, I think, on her ribbon, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, there you have it. Fairy godmother. Lots of glitter. I think she's cute. So for day 8, it's one of my pocket pages because I've gotten to the next pocket page, and the prompt was a camper or scout witch. And so I was thinking about like Girl Scouts. I wasn't in Girl Scouts. I was in Campfire Girls, but not Girl Scouts. But I was kind of thinking of, you know, hiking, going out into the nature and hiking on a day trip. And I decided to work on body shape, positioning, which is tricky. You know, you start out, you learn how to draw a face, and that's all good. But then sometimes you have to add the body as well, and getting things positioned the way they should be and proportionate the way they should be, a little bit tricky. So I decided to make her sitting down as if she's resting on her hike and she's taken her pack off. She's just sitting on the ground. And so a lot of adjusting, a lot of repositioning, a lot of erasing in this one. I think you can tell what I was going for at the end, but it took me a while to just do all this you know, fussing, tried to get, I felt like the forearms were too long, but then I realized that her arms are forward, so the top part of the arms would be shorter than the forearms. Excuse me, I'm catching a cold. So then I didn't want to do trees because I thought, oh, that's not witchy. So I decided that the forest she's in has got giant mushrooms and maybe she's there to collect potion ingredients. I don't know. So I drew all different types of mushrooms and that was fun. And then again, I used my Faber-Castell Pitt artist pens and I did quite a bit of thinking about line weight in this one as well. I started out with I think the medium and did most of the outlining with that, and then I did outline the hands and face and some of the smaller details with a smaller nib, and then I ended up coming back in with the brush and adding some heavy lines where shadows would be, and you know, kind of like the last one. Line weight is important when you're doing illustration. It's something you have to practice and think about. And I think I used the extra small probably for the details. Maybe little face is tiny, tiny, tiny little face. 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches on these papers. Actually, this one's 5 inches by 4.5 inches because it's one of the pockets. So, but that doesn't really make a difference. It's just a little bit longer on one side so that it can stick out of the pocket. So here I am making sure that all the lines connect. And then now I've got, I guess it's the size large nib or size full nib, and I'm darkening some of the lines. I guess I didn't never use the brush one. I just went with the largest of the bullet type nibs. I will list in the description box below a link to these pens as well as anything else that I used. The list is pretty short because it's basically a pencil, eraser, pen pack, and then whatever I used to color it, which 3 different things on 3 different pages for coloring. Probably could have been done with all one thing, but I just, you know, I'm trying to vary it. And this time I'm using the Derwent Inktense pencils. This is similar. It's a watercolor pencil, basically a water-soluble pencil. On these small illustrations, it's nice to have something that's controllable, that you can put the color exactly where you want. And so that's why I've been using markers and pens and things like that. But I do like the concept of being able to blend them. I'm really into water-soluble media. I like things that blend. And so I just been using different ones that blend. The Inktense pencils are a little bit unique. They are a watercolor pencil, as in they're a pencil that has water-soluble lead. But once it's been wet and it's dried or starting to dry, it becomes permanent. So these are great for mixed media if you're planning on putting, you know, other layers on top of the things that you did with the pencil. You won't get a bunch of smearing and mess. Of course, I'm not doing that on this. I'm just using it purely because it is water soluble and easily applied in the area where I want it to. I am going to start doing some paper painting. I think maybe tomorrow's will be collaged or something. I mean, it's fun to do this, but I want some variety. I get bored easily. So I do make her a little red-headed witch. I think that the oranges and reds contrast well with the green outfit. I put her in kind of like a scout's nature-colored outfit with a khaki backpack and brown boots, you know, like she's out hiking. She's a natural witch. And then those little tiny mushrooms, I wanted to remain white, so I decided to put in a background so that they would be more obviously white. So that's the reason that I ended up putting in the blue background. Didn't really think I needed it, but then I really wanted those ones to be white. and then just a few little dots of highlight with my white Posca pen. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and you will give it a thumbs up, you'll leave me a comment, subscribe, turn on your notifications, and share. Sharing is really great. That's it for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.